the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm now joined by old friend of the Sports Source over there on WATE every Sunday morning. He's now got the Sports Source Digital Network with all kinds of great guests coming in and out all week long that you can go subscribe to and check out on the Sports Source Digital Network YouTube channel. It's John Pennington. John, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Doing good, Chase. Thanks for having me. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you for being here, man. We would think that like this time of year here, late April, that it's like, oh, we can kind of take a step back here. And it's like, this has been, I don't know if you would agree, John, but it does feel like this has been the craziest Tennessee football offseason since the Heupel got hired offseason, right?
Yes. Yeah, completely. When you look at, well, I mean, I guess it feels that way in a lot of places just due to the portal madness. And now everything's about money, and can you come up with an extra $20? And if not, this guy's going to leave and go to, Nebraska, and then you'll go get the guy he's replacing at Nebraska. And it just seems silly to me at this point. And as we showed on our show Sunday, that all these guys that are coming into the SEC right now, there's dozens of them. Each team, it's average of about 3.5 players per team for the portal. 4 of them were 4-star players. Everybody else, so you're just kind of swapping. And granted, there are 3-star guys who can be fantastic, but for the most part, it looks like you're trading a lot of B-level parts. So you look at that kind of stuff, and then, Tennessee, when are they not on the poster? Something new, something controversial, something strange. You're always going to look at the movie poster of that weird event, and there's a power T in the middle of it. The first school to offer an insane, huge money contract to an 18-year-old kid. Fast forward 3 years, and the first school to have said big money kid hold out for a spring game and just leave in April. I mean, it's remarkable. I told David Ubben of The Athletic when he moved to town, I said, get ready. You're going to have stuff here that you've never had anywhere else. And he's like, I've covered a lot. It's like, yeah, okay. And he's seen a lot of crazy stuff go down since he's been here. It's wild, and it has been a busy April because of it. It's funny. Tennessee fans, you got to give them credit, because they have to suffer through more weird stuff, and in most cases they come out, still optimistic. So it has been wild. It has been a crazy April.
It's why, like, even as crazy as it gets, it's like it's just such a juggernaut that, like, it's one of those places, if you ever get it right, like you just saw baseball. It's just, if you get the right guy in there, it's just the top will come off, and you will dominate in a way where it's sitting there. And it's kind of like, I just feel like Tennessee right now is where Georgia was with Mark Richt. And that was a good spot to be in for a while. Like, Georgia fans love Mark Richt. And I mean, it's hard to forecast years and years down the line, but I think Heupel will always be well regarded by the majority of Tennessee fans, regardless of how the next couple of years go, just with how he steered this ship out of where it was with Pruitt and everything. I just look at it as like, he's a good dude. You like him. It's been fun. You've lost one home game in the last 3 years. Like, the floor has been raised significantly, but it's the same stuff that we talked about when he first got hired. It's like, what's the ceiling look like? What does the recruiting look like? What is the realistic expectations for Heupel? And I think it's so fascinating now that we're entering this point where I was talking to somebody in there. It's like, it just feels like Heupel is the guy before the guy. And my thing is, I'm like, you make it seem like it's easy to just go from Rick to Kirby. Like, I don't know who that Kirby is right after Heupel that's just looming out there. I don't think Gerard Mayo is just like, let me go in here and I'll just be, I'll use my NFL acumen and we'll get a GM in here and we'll get this thing humming the way I want it to. It's like, I don't know who that guy is. Maybe that guy does exist, but to me, I think this is still okay. I think he deserves the time to figure this out this year. I think it's a gigantic year for him and his offense. And I'm very curious if Tennessee fans hold true to the Mulligan conversation we're having here in April, because I tend to don't think that that's going to continue depending on how it goes.
Yeah, I've already seen that shift with my viewers.
Really?
We did a poll question yesterday, and it was like, is this a rebuilding year, or heck no, it's year 5. You can't have a rebuilding year. And the winner at the end of the day was that. Whereas 2 weeks ago, it was 85% voted. Yeah. I don't care what happens this year. I'm with him because of what he did with Nico. And we laughed and said, get back with me if you're trailing at halftime of the Syracuse game. Well, it took 2 weeks, and that's already over. It's not a rebuilding year. You're supposed to win. I look at the Heupel thing differently than most. As a matter of fact, a former director of my show was in there yesterday before we did the show live. He was there taping something else, and we were talking, and he said, Heupel's been a disappointment, hasn't he? And I said, you mean the 30 wins in 3 years after he inherited the dumpster fire? The playoffs last year, the Orange Bowl, which would have been a playoff berth under the current system.
Yeah.
That's disappointing. I just, and he's the same way. It's like, well, there's got to be something else out there. Yeah, that worked out well when you hired Lane Kiffin to replace Fulmer. That was excellent. I remember everybody loved Dooley and they loved Butch Pruitt. Oh, it was great. You just snapped your fingers. See, that's why I hated the Kirby Smart thing working for Georgia. It tells all these other schools what we've got is good, but there's something better. And there's the one. See, it works. It works. And most teams, it doesn't work. That was what you had an alum who also happened to be under Nick Saban. Tennessee tried the Nick Saban thing a couple times. Didn't work with Dooley or Pruitt.
Yeah.
They happened to get the guy that worked. Could it be Georgia has off the charts recruiting? Could it be that they've kind of got a little recruiting advantage on everyone in the country in terms of the state of Georgia?
Yes.
And the fact that they don't compete with anybody. I mean, you can say, well, Florida's got 15 D1 schools in that state that they have to compete with. They got to compete with Florida State, Miami, UCF. Now, if you swipe one, if FAU swipes one, it's a
Miami.
little different. Yeah, whereas Georgia, it's basically you're recruiting against Georgia Tech. Okay, because Georgia State isn't stealing many.
Well, a little bit of Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee, most of their classes are still heavy Georgia kids. Like Tennessee's habit, like you can't not live in Georgia as a Tennessee recruiter.
Right. And you could say the same for a lot of SEC schools. So Georgia's having to fight those off, but they've got that in-state lead that's got an advantage on those that you're not going to have. Tennessee has a harder time going into Georgia than Georgia would have picking kids out of Georgia because they're there. Now that they've got it rolling, that's great. I just think it's I guess if I were an AD, I'd be the kind of AD that fans would despise, I suppose, because I would look at it and say, I've hired this person. Show me reasons to keep you. Whereas I think most fans, certainly fans here, they hire a guy and immediately start looking for reasons to fire you. There we go. Fire him. Oh, he lost a game in November. Fire him. Oh, because I remember when they first got Heupel, it was, let's see how he does against Florida and Georgia and Alabama. Now it's just, we can't beat Georgia. If you were beating Georgia, it would be he's not beating Alabama. It's just they're going to keep moving the goalposts. He's going to take a step back this year. I thought that before Nico left. I said it after the Ohio State game. You can't replace 4 offensive linemen, your top 3 wideouts, Dylan Sampson, and not call it a rebuilding year. It is. There's no way around it. So my guess is, even though he's overshot the mark most of the times I've set a bar, he's exceeded it for the most part. I don't think he can this year. I think you're going to take a step back. I think people will be calling for his head, saying he's not the guy. Whereas I would be looking at it saying, oh, wait, he's shown me he can get in the ballpark of being the guy. If the thing were seeded differently last year, like it should have been, you weren't opening at Ohio State. You weren't playing them fresh off them losing to Michigan where they were ready to beat their own mothers. They would have killed the priest if they could. They were just wild and ravenous that night. So to me, if you'd opened with SMU at home, which probably would have been the seeding the other way around, you might have won a game. Now you're in the second round of the playoffs. Is that why you fired Josh Heupel? Well, he didn't get past the second round. So to me, I'm looking at it saying this guy has shown me enough to keep building with him. Let's see what he can do, as opposed to, nope, I just want to check him off the list, move on. Well, let's just hire somebody every year. Nope, you didn't go 12-0 this year. You're fired. Who's next this year? I hate that kind of mentality because I look around. How's that work for Nebraska? How's that working for Florida? I said 5 years ago, Florida is becoming the new Tennessee. They're there. They're there. Will Muschamp. Well, he made an SEC title game, but his offense stinks. It's boring. We don't want that. Okay. Dan Mullen, SEC championship game. Yeah, but he's not recruiting well. Well, are you going to give him a chance to see if he can win with the guys he's getting? No. Okay. Well, then just keep losing 7 games a year. Congratulations. That's tremendous. And then get mad and say, why can't we hire the right guy? Maybe because you don't give anybody a chance. I just think that, Tom Osborne, it took him 30 years to win a national title. It took the same for Bobby Bowden. If that's the bar, those guys would have been fired 25 years before they ever won it. Philip Fulmer, would he have made it to 98 now? I mean, he got the job in 93, and he did beat Florida. Would he have even made it to 98, or would people be saying in this day and age, 10-1? I don't care about that Citrus Bowl. fire him. So I'm at a different level than everybody else. I'm willing to give Heupel another couple of years, see what happens. I don't look at 30 wins in 3 years, considering the dumpster fire this place was for the last 20. I don't look at that and say we need to move on. I look at that and say, okay, there's promise here. I don't have a problem with 10 wins a year. I think that's pretty good. Now let's see if he can hit. Here's the other question. What's the expectation to win it every? Let's say it's 10 wins every year and he wins a national title, then he goes back to 10 wins every year. Well, he just won the one national title. 10 wins isn't good enough. If 10 wins isn't good enough after one title, would it be good enough after 2 titles? I mean, clearly it's not good enough now before a title. I don't understand what the goal is. I mean, I guess you could sit around and say, when does the heat get cranked up on Tony Vitello? Yeah, he won one, but it's been 3 years now since he won. I mean, is that where it goes?
Mm-hmm.
We know the answer, yes. I just wonder when we start that clock on him. You just have to keep winning national championships around here. And it's remarkable at a school that doesn't win a lot of national championships that they have that mindset. That 98, it's not like you've had 98 15 times. You've had it twice in our lifetimes. And some people watching, they haven't had it in their lifetime. It was before they were born. So I would just look at the positives of Josh Heupel and say, all right, there's no reason to make a change here. We would just be possibly blowing ourselves up. Let's see what he can do. Let's try and aid him as best we can to move up from where he is with 10 wins a year. But if anybody had told me when he was hired, when he just lost 30 people, when Pruitt got here, and you got the NCAA cloud over your head, if you'd told me within 4 years he'll have 30 wins in 3 years, I would have said, you're nuts. You're crazy. And instead, that's not good enough. So don't know if that's that may be opposite your line of thinking, and I know it's opposite a lot of people's thinking, but I'm not saying he's the greatest coach in the world, but there's a hell of a lot worse out there.
No, I'm right there with you. I think he's somewhere in the top 15. I think he's in that 10 to 15 range nationally. I think what's interesting to me about where Tennessee is as a whole right now, John, is that like Tim Banks was a punching bag for years, right? Like it's just, we got to upgrade there. And I just like all he's done is just put a better scoring defense on the field every single year he's been at Tennessee. Like they were a top 10 scoring defense last year. Rodney Garner, I mean, he's hanging around. Like he is your most important coach on this staff, I think, by and large. You look at Coach Chop, you elevate there. Coach Chop, great recruiter, great developer of Leos. Tennessee's done a really good job. They just had a Leo go in the first round. That's identifying talent out of North Carolina. James Pierce is a good find by the staff. Omar Norman Lott was a great find out of the portal for the staff. They've done a really good job there. I think this is the most talented linebacker core they've had to this point in the Heupel era. Corner, you have Jermod McCoy getting mocked in the top 10 immediately after the 25 draft. That's been great because Willie Martinez has been a punching bag, and you're like, oh, we got to get right there. And it's like, well, you have last year you had the best corner combination in the 21st century for University of Tennessee with Ricky Gibson and Jermod McCoy. Boo Carter can be an absolute superstar, your best safety hybrid since Eric Berry. Like Boo Carter is a two-way player who's going to have, I'm not going to doubt Boo Carter. I think Boo Carter is going to be an exceptional football player here. Yeah. So I just look at the defense and I'm like, the defense isn't going anywhere. He's hired well. Like William Inge was a great replacement for Brian John Marie, extending Tim Banks and giving him just, protecting him, not just being like, oh, it's not good enough, whatever. We got to move on. We got to withstand the heat, whatever. He continues on. And Tim Banks is one of the best defensive coordinators, I think, in the sport. And keeping him and that staff intact is good. That being said, what I don't even want to say what troubles me. What I think this year now is not going to be an inflection point for Tennessee football because of the Nico wrench. If Nico had not left, I think this would have been a big year for Heupel in terms of how hands-on he can be with the offense going forward. Because right now, you have 2 years of below average quarterback play, and you have 2 years of pretty great quarterback play and passing offense. So it's been 50-50. But the last 2 years, it's been the defense and the running game. That is a big reason as to why you're winning a lot of football games. But then you say, like, hey, Heupel deserves credit for going to 12 personnel and being like, my tackles can't block, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. Because I know, I don't know Heupel personally, but I know how this dude, I feel like I know that this guy has hated watching his offense the last 2 years. Like, there's no way he has enjoyed any part of the last 2 years offensively and what's been going on there. And I look at all that and I'm like, it's got to be driving him mad because he's just had success everywhere he's gone with his offenses, and it just has not worked for a cornucopia of reasons the last 2 years. It can't be all on one guy. That all being said, if Nico was around this year, like you were betting on your evals at receiver, you were betting on your evals on the offensive line, you were betting on your evals at running back, and you were betting on your biggest eval at quarterback, making that year 3 leap into the Heisman, one of the best quarterbacks in the country phase. And if the passing game was still bad this year, it would have been like, okay, you've been protective of all of your guys. It's a young, like the offensive side of the ball is all young guys, like everybody except Glenn Ellerby, under 40 years old on the offensive side of the ball. Position coaches. It's the exact opposite on the defensive side. It's all vets. It's all guys who know what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. So I just look at that and I'm like, I was prepared for this year to be so interesting to me of like, does the passing game get fixed? And they win in their evals. Now it's like, I don't know how to judge Heupel this year. I don't know how to judge this offense. I don't know what's fair. I don't think Aguilar's a good fit for this team. I don't think Aguilar would have been one of the first 10 guys they looked at in the December portal window. If all things were considered, it was just more of like, you'd make do with what you have. But it's like he led the country in interceptions last year. That is not a Heupel guy. Heupel does not allow, like we're not throwing picks in our system. We're throwing side to side, and it's like Milton, like they were like no throwing over the field in 23. That's gone. We're only going side to side and running the football. That's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna win games.
Yeah.
I don't know how this works. I don't think he makes a lot of sense in this game, and I think it's just more of like a body. I mean, what happens if Jake Merklinger runs with this job like after Georgia? Like they put him in because it doesn't go well, and they're 1-2 or 2-1, but the offense is just not working. Then do you lose Faison? Do you lose George because you're
that?
There's so many interesting parts to all of this that I have no idea what happens here.
You can't worry about Faison Brandon. That's the first thing, and that's going to drive everybody nuts. But he's a 5-star. Well, here's the thing: you could ride him and say, "Well, we'll take our lumps this year, so we'll keep Faison Brandon in the pipeline." All right. Well, Nico was a 5-star. How'd that look?
Yeah.
Everybody wanted Joe Milton in that arm. Everybody's drooling over Joe Milton. How did that look?
Yeah.
Right. Faison Brandon. The other thing is, what's to say LSU or Miami or Notre Dame doesn't come in this offseason and say, we're going to make you the first $10 million a year quarterback?
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
So you cannot put all your eggs in that basket. You have to do what you got to do this year. And if he doesn't want to come in here and compete, if you find something in McIntyre or Merklinger, great. That's the way I would look at it. And he can either come in here and compete, or he can go somewhere else and chicken out. That's how I would just handle it with my guys. In terms of judging it this season, I agree with you. It throws a wrench into everything because it's amazing. We did the show Sunday, and a lot of people were mad that we dared to point out that UCLA had seen Aguilar. And they looked at it and said, boy, it's tough to change quarterbacks in the portal. Go get Nico.
Mm-hmm.
We would rather have Nico than Aguilar. Now, I don't know. They may not know what they're getting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But they're also still looking at UCLA's offense last year, right, with Eric Bieniemy. And it's like completely different. Tino Sinceri and that Indiana offense was a top 10, top 15 offense. Like, this is very different. You can't look at the UCLA numbers from a year ago. This is a completely different, simplified offense.
No, I'm just saying that they looked at Aguilar and they looked at Nico and they wanted Nico.
Yeah.
So I don't know how everybody here is like, oh, it's an upgrade. No, and it could turn out to be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows how he's going to play? It may be spectacular. But, I mean, nobody thought when Hendon Hooker took over from Joe Milton, nobody was sitting there going, thank gosh, we're sitting down this guy that can throw it 150 yards, and we're bringing in this 3-star from Virginia Tech who never did much there. Nobody was cheering that. So maybe Aguilar comes in and surprises us all. In terms of him throwing picks, it is worrisome, but I will say Justin Hamilton was on our show a few years ago, and Justin was the defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. He had been blown up with that staff, so he was in town, and we got him on our show. And having been at Virginia Tech with Hendon Hooker, I was asking him. I told him, I said, look, man, this guy's throwing 2 interceptions. It's unbelievable. 3 interceptions. That's it for the year. What an amazing job. And he's like, it's the system. I said, well, come on, but you got to give this guy not a tip ball. No, he said, it's the system. The system. And if you go back and look at Heupel's numbers, he's never had a quarterback throw double-digit interceptions.
Yeah.
Never. So I think the system should help Aguilar here cut down on his interception numbers. We'll see. But
it requires the quarterback to stay within the system, right? Like, that's part of what made Hendon so great was Hendon was so good at being exactly what Heupel wanted in the pocket. Like, one read go, like, hey, he was a machine. Like, Hendon Hooker was a machine. This kid is more of run around and make something out of nothing. And we haven't really seen that work here under Heupel.
No, but I don't know. It still could work is all I'm saying. I think it's a downgrade, and that made everybody mad because they've convinced themselves that this is an upgrade going from Nico.
Well, it's also a downgrade because he's got 2 months. Like, he might not be here till mid-June with the court. Like, it's just not.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I was like, do you not think he's studying the playbook now? I was like, great, he's studying the playbook. He'll have had it for 3 months before the season starts. Here's the bigger deal.
That's 3 offenses in like 6 months. That's 3 in 6 months.
He's got to learn the offense. He's got to learn the offensive line, and he's got to learn his receivers.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Sterling Hinton about that, and he's like, that's tougher. That's tougher than learning the offense.
Yep.
But if you're also going to be the team leader, the vocal leader, get on my page, get on the same page with me, do this, do that. As Sterling put it, he's got to learn what wrong is in this offense before he can tell somebody else they're wrong. So all that has to be worked into it. That's why if I'm looking at this as 1994, everybody will be mad if you went 8-4 this year. I think that'd be a hell of a year if you go 8-4.
I think so too. I think 8-4 is what you want. I mean, 9-3 is perfect scenario, but 8-4 should be celebrated. Like, you did it. Good job. You made it through a crazy year. Like, run with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think 8-4s would be a good year, but that's what you were in 94. Yeah. When you had Jerry Colquitt go down 7 plays in, and I know some of your viewers don't remember 94, but 7 plays into the season, Jerry Colquitt, your starting quarterback, goes down. And you have to go to Todd Helton because your 2 freshmen aren't ready. And for the next few games, you're rotating Helton with Peyton Manning with Brandon Stewart. And then finally Helton's like, I took one too many hits. I got a baseball career to preserve. Then it becomes Manning and Brandon Stewart. And at a Florida game, the fans booed when Peyton Manning came onto the field because they wanted Stewart because he could run around. They were used to the Heath Schuler. Everybody loves a running quarterback. Then eventually Manning grabs the job. And eventually, once he grabbed the job, he got better and better and better. His final game in a bowl game, he looked spectacular. And you had glimpses of, oh, this kid's going to be special. Well, if you look at it and go, nah, it's an 8-4 year, you're missing the big picture. That was a launching pad year is what that was. That was a rebuild because of the circumstances, and you could look at it the same way. That's how I would handle this year. To me, Aguilar isn't your starting quarterback. You got a 3-man competition. I wouldn't hesitate to play 2 of them or 3 of them this year, depending on how it goes, to find my guy. You're also going to try and develop an offensive line with 4 new starters. You're trying to find out if these 2 hotshot receivers are actually hotshot receivers in terms of Staley and Matthews. If you're humming at the end of the year and you found a guy, but you're only 7-5 or 8-4, but it looks like the pieces are there. Oh, Lance Hurd does look like a guy we should give this money to. Okay, David Sanders. Now, I'm going to guess he's not going to look great in September. That's my guess. But if you're seeing in November that David Sanders starting, it's like, okay, now I see why he's a 5-star. I'm feeling good about that at year's end. That's the way I would look at it. But I know that is not how this fan base is going to look at it. This fan base is simply looking, they're waiting. You know, they're sitting there. Okay. Oh, he lost a game, so we're closer to firing him. Oh, another loss. Let's fire him. I know that, and then a lot of fan bases are like that. But I would think that after the nightmare this one's been through, I wouldn't go into this season hoping to make a coaching change. But a lot of people do. They enjoy that side of it more than they do watching the football games. I think that this offense in general hasn't been as good the last 2 years, and I think it's due to quarterback accuracy. That's the biggest thing for me. Is I think you've seen. Here's the deal: how many times did either A, Nico hit a guy in the hands and he dropped it downfield, or B, he overshot a guy? Let's say you connect on 2 more of those a game, put 14 more points on the board. That's a whole different year last year. So I'm not so sure the offense is broken as much as it is you just need an accurate guy who's willing to play within the system. I don't know that Nico, I think he was probably too risk averse last year. You're probably going to go to the other end of that with Aguilar in there. Yeah. Somewhere between those two.
Maybe Merck too. I mean, all those guys, they seem more all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah, but to me, I'll give Heupel credit. The offense didn't look good. You mentioned it. He won with defense. Most offensive coaches never win with defense. They don't allow it. Go back to 2 years ago when he's first realizing this offense isn't what it needs to be under Milton, and they started winning games with defense. I went on my show and was saying, you've got to stop going on 4th down on your own end of the field. Your offense isn't good enough this year. If you're going to win with defense, Knock that off. You have to lean on your defense. Stop thinking like an offensive coach. He did. That's amazing. Most of these coaches can't do that. Most of these coaches refuse to do that. Example, Jeremy Pruitt, when in doubt, pull in the reins and we're going to win with my defense. Mark Stoops, you could have an NFL talent at quarterback, but at the end of a game, if it's close, he ain't going for it. He's like, wait, let's be cautious. Let my defense win it. Most offensive coaches, we're going to win it with my offense. I was impressed that Heupel, yes, his offense wasn't as good. So, yeah, that's an X. But I give him a check mark for saying, I'm going to adjust. You took away my jab, but I'm going to come at you with this uppercut. All right, that's a little different. I give him credit for that. So we'll see. But to me, winning with defense when you're an offensive coach, there aren't a lot of guys. Point to me the number of guys who do that. I'm not saying that he's Steve Spurrier or Nick Saban, but those are guys who Saban was a defensive guy, didn't like the up-tempo offense. What did he do? Game changed. He went to the up-tempo offense. Steve Spurrier, everything's opening up, throw the ball all over the yard. He gets to South Carolina. SEC DBs are better now the second time around when he's in the league. People are putting better athletes on defense than they were in the 90s. So what's he do? He goes to this same zone read offense that everybody else is using, and he somehow makes an SEC title game twice. Those are the kinds of coaches who stand out. So I'll give Heupel credit for the last year saying, okay, we're not winning with offense. I'm not only just going to win with defense, I'm going to play conservatively, which he does not want to do. As a quarterback, those guys want to throw the ball, but he's going at it conservatively. He's going at it to win it a different way. That's not a negative in my mind. That's a positive. Again, that's another reason to see how he can develop. And maybe at some point out there, he hits the wall and it's like, okay, he just can't get past this level. There's a ceiling over him. But I don't think you're there yet. And again, I see reasons. I did see the 11-2. I did see what this offense looks like with the right quarterback and right receivers when it's humming. I did see him win with defense. There are reasons there to like what's coming and to stick with it and to give it a little bit more time as opposed to, nah, I see the negatives, fire him. And I'm afraid that's where most people go in this conference, because now you do look at Kirby Smart and everybody's like, see, it's easy. It's easy. Blow up our coach. Go get us a Kirby Smart. Never mind that 99% of the schools who do that don't find their Kirby Smart.
I agree. I like it. John Pennington, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Sports Source and the Sports Source Digital Network this week?
Yeah, I'm trying this week. Well, we'll put up tons of content we do every week. The digital network, we do the Sunday show, and we've been doing that since 2003. 90 minutes every Sunday from 11 to 12:30. I usually never have fewer than 5 or 6 people on there. We're like double the size of a normal show. We're 90 minutes, so we're double the length of most shows around here. We're year round, so that's a unique perspective. I try and bring as many different voices into that show as I can. We also have the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff now, 11 to noon every Saturday, which is kind of a weekend sports wrap-up show. And a lot of it is called from the Sports Source Digital Network, where we are putting up, well, we've been up for 3 months as of today. Today's our 3rd month. We put up 160 videos, and it's all kinds of everything from outdoor shows to football shows to one-on-one interviews to fun history shows where we talk about we count down the 6. Last week was the 6 biggest turncoats in Tennessee sports history with John Wilkerson and myself every week. So we got hardball, for example. If you like Tennessee baseball, we got 3 VFLs that come in there, and I get out of the way. There is no host. It's just those 3 guys talking ball. So it's a different type of channel that we're experimenting right now, and we invite people to go check out the Sports Source Digital Network.
I love it. John Pennington, thank you as always for the time. I greatly appreciate it. Go subscribe to the Sports Source if you are not already, and we'll have to check back in again soon, my friend.
Thank you, Chase. I appreciate it. We got to get you over there.
Oh, let me know. I'm close by. Let me know, John Pennington.
We'll do it.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.